Hello, Barcelona family. Like and subscribe to the channel to know everything about Barcelona. In this video, we have a historic bombshell at Barcelona, but before that, we need to talk about some very important topics concerning our beloved club. Let's start with the first one. Hold on tight to your chair, because the European football rumor mill never stops, and today it brings us news that makes our morning coffee hard to swallow. It is being strongly whispered in the most secret corridors of the transfer market that Cuti Romero, that impenetrable wall of Tottenham and key player of the glorious Argentina team, has given clear and concise orders to his representatives to urgently and determinedly explore his transfer to Football Club Barcelona. Thus, without anesthesia, the news was spread far and wide by the always well-informed journalist Fabrizio Romano, whose source in these matters is usually as reliable as a penalty kick. Romano assures that despite the fierce competition that has emerged for the combative defender, the Blaugrana club, our dear Barcelona, is at this very moment in pole position, leading the race to secure his services. Such news, of course, could not go unnoticed in the Barcelona universe. It immediately sparked a passionate debate, a crossfire of opinions burning in every corner, from social media to the most improvised discussions at the bakery door. And the discussion, which is curious and significant, does not revolve so much around the undeniable level of the footballer, which no one in their right mind would dare to question. Cuti is a world champion, an experienced player, and an imposing presence. The real friction, the real fault line in the Barcelona public opinion, lies in what his profile represents, in what his arrival could imply, for better or for worse, in the complex and delicate web of our current sports project. Because here, at Barcelona, a transfer is not just a name added to a team, it is a statement of intent, another stone in the construction of an edifice with a non-negotiable identity. From the very moment this news was revealed, the reactions were, as expected, mixed. On the one hand, it is absolutely undeniable that Cuti Romero is an established defender. He has vast experience in one of the most demanding and brutal leagues on the planet, the Premier League, where every weekend is a merciless battle. Furthermore, he has demonstrated his hierarchy and leadership with the Albiceleste jersey, where he has been a fundamental pillar in conquering the most coveted titles. His playing style is combative, not devoid of commendable ferocity, with an innate ability to anticipate individual duels that borders on the supernatural. His power in divided balls is a quality that allows him to impose himself in the boxes, and his strong character in the defensive zone gives him an intimidating presence that inspires respect both in England and on the international stage. It is no surprise, then, that several of the most powerful teams in Europe are after him and that his name is a top priority on more than one transfer list. He is the prototype of the central defender that many coaches dream of to strengthen their defense. However, this is where things get complicated for Barcelona supporters. The fact that the player himself, with determination and without detours, has instructed his entourage to seek a direct approach with Barcelona forces a deep, almost existential reflection for our club. Because when a footballer of his caliber raises his hand and openly declares that he wants to wear our sacred jersey, it cannot, in any case, go unnoticed. It is a gesture of will, a sign of interest that, in principle, could be flattering. The first thing, the most fundamental that we must ask ourselves as Barcelona supporters is whether Cuti Romero truly fits, not only in terms of quality but also in profile, the type of footballer that our team desperately needs. Because in this club, and this is something we must repeat ad nauseum, it is not just about having undeniable quality or proven experience. Here, the demand goes far beyond the purely technical. It is required to understand the game with a tactical sensitivity that allows interpreting each phase of the match. It is required to know how to coexist with the constant pressure of having to build the game from the back, to be the first links in the chain of creation and not to limit oneself, in any case, to desperately clearing balls or playing possession. It is required to have serenity, positional intelligence that allows anticipating actions before they develop. Above all, a character that aligns with the intrinsic values of our crest. And it is precisely at this point, in the compatibility with the footballing identity that Barcelona is trying to preserve tenaciously and at the same time recover with a titanic effort, that the deepest and most persistent doubts appear. For all these reasons, beyond the interest that the name of Cuti Romero may arouse, the most sensible, coherent, and intelligent thing for the future of Barcelona would be to look elsewhere, to thank the gesture, the disposition, the desire so vehemently expressed to wear the Blaugrana jersey, but to maintain the course we have set for ourselves, because not everyone who wants to come to Barcelona, no matter how insistent, should come. It is not about opening the doors to everyone who knocks, no matter how famous they are, because Barcelona is not a club that is accessed by insistence or whim, but by belonging. And this belonging must be demonstrated through concrete actions, through a footballing profile that fits like a glove to our way of playing, through exemplary behavior on and off the field, and through a true and deep understanding of what it means to play in this temple of football. And you, Barcelona supporter, who reads me and feels this club deep in your being, what do you think of all this? Do you think that Cuti Romero fits, despite everything that is said, into Barcelona's style of play? Would you be willing to accept his arrival just for his international prestige, for his unmeasured intensity on the field, for his status as a world champion? Or do you prefer, like me, that the club maintains a clear, firm, and coherent line with its philosophy of always, even if it means losing a media-friendly name? The debate is open, and it is necessary that we have it, that we live it with passion and with arguments, but the conviction, mine at least, must remain unshakable. Not by renown, not by insistence, but by a perfect integration into a project that must look to the future with meridian clarity, with non-negotiable courage, and, above all, with absolute fidelity to its principles and its way of understanding football. Because Barcelona is more than a club, and this is demonstrated in every choice, in every transfer, in every step we take towards greatness. The second piece of news concerns a very important decision for the club. My goodness, Barcelona fans, hold on tight, because in the universe of Barcelona, there is never a day of calm. Just when you think you've seen it all, that nothing can surprise you anymore in our blessed club, a piece of news comes along that leaves your soul in suspense and your heart divided. The rumor, the drop that overflows the cup of Barcelona patience, does not come from just anywhere. It comes, according to what is being said, from the corridors of Camp Nou and the gossip of the press, directly from the entourage of Marco Asensio. Yes, you heard right, Marco Asensio, the same one who until recently was a symbol on the other side, a player who embodied that rivalry that defines us, that healthy sting, sometimes less so, which adds flavor to football. It turns out that this gentleman, now in Parisian lands, where it seems his spark has diluted like sugar in the Seine, has been pulling strings with his representatives to offer his services, to loudly demand an opportunity in the club of our loves, Football Club Barcelona. We rub our eyes, we can't believe our ears. Asensio, who at Parc des Princes has not found the regularity or protagonism he might have expected, with a rather testimonial presence in the big matches, is seeking a way out, and among all the options, among all the possible destinations for a player of his supposed quality and experience, he chooses Barcelona. Villarreal, according to the rumor, wants him on their wish list for the next season, seeking in him that spark for the Champions League, that proven quality which, they say, he has in abundance. The club from Castellón, a dignified and ambitious team, sees him as a star signing, a luxury incorporation to raise the level. They want him to make a leap in quality in the continental tournament, to compete with guarantees against the giants of Europe. And the player, apparently, does not see this option unfavorably, that of returning to the Spanish league, to an environment he knows, to a team where he could perhaps be that key figure he so desires. He wants to regain protagonism, relaunch his career, and the Yellow Submarine offers him that springboard. But let's return to our subject, Barcelona fans. Because the gaze of this humble servant and of every fan with blue and garnet blood cannot turn away from the epicenter of our universe, Barcelona. When I heard about Asensio and his supposed interest in wearing our jersey, I felt a shiver, and not precisely a shiver of emotion. Here, at Barcelona, we have a particular way of understanding football, a philosophy that goes beyond mere skill with the ball. It is a feeling, an identity forged in the youth academy, in hard work, in unconditional love for the colors. And let's be honest, Asensio's trajectory does not, in my humble but firm opinion, align with this identity. Let's not be mistaken, Barcelona fans. Memory is fragile in modern football, but the essence is not. We could so easily forget the years when Asensio was one of ours, but on the other side, it is not a question of forgiving or not forgiving, it is a question of feeling the crest, of vibrating with every pass, with every play, with every goal as if it were our last breath. And this, with all due respect, I do not think Asensio has for our Barcelona. His past is, for a true Barcelona fan, an insurmountable obstacle. Let's not be mistaken, Barcelona fans. Memory is fragile in modern football, but the essence is not. We could so easily forget the years when Asensio was one of ours, but on the other side, it is not a question of forgiving or not forgiving, it is a question of feeling the crest, of vibrating with every pass, with every play, with every goal as if it were our last breath. And this, with all due respect, I do not think Asensio has for our Barcelona. His past is, for a true Barcelona fan, an insurmountable obstacle. It is not just about his quality as a footballer, which is undeniable, even if he has not been able to show it in Paris. It is about something deeper, that immaterial connection that unites a player with a jersey, with a crowd, with a history. At Barcelona, we value the youth academy, the training, the commitment from the cradle. And even if the market sometimes forces us to look elsewhere, to bring in talents from other latitudes, we always do so with an eye on suitability, on integration, on whether that player will understand what Barcelona means. Asensio, with his trajectory, with his past, would he really understand it, or would he see Barcelona as just another stop in his career, a place to relaunch a trajectory that has not taken off in his current team? The sports management, the board of directors should be very clear that Barcelona is not a transit team. We are not a reclassification agency for footballers who do not fit into other projects. We are Barcelona, and the demand here is maximum, not only on a footballing level but also on an emotional, identity level. If a player comes to Barcelona, it must be because he feels the club, because he dreams of playing at Camp Nou with our jersey, not because his representative told him it was a good option to relaunch his career. That is opportunism, and at Barcelona, opportunism has no place. It is true that football has changed. Romanticism, eternal loyalties seem to belong to the past. Players come and go. Contracts are signed with an eye on the next opportunity, the next paycheck. But even in this world so globalized and commercialized, Barcelona has managed to maintain, sometimes with great effort, that essence which makes it unique, that essence which distinguishes us, which makes us vibrate differently. And now, for what? To bring in a player who, by his history and by his present, does not seem to fit at all with what we are. We talk about his proven quality, his ability to unbalance, his vision of the game, and his experience in big scenarios. All of this may be true, I will not deny it. Asensio has moments of brilliance, flashes of magic that have allowed him to be in the elite. But is that enough for Barcelona? Is it enough for a club that has cultivated excellence, not only technical but also human and emotional? I do not think so. Adapting to Barcelona's philosophy is not simple. It is not just about knowing how to touch the ball, it is about understanding the automatisms. It is about knowing what to do without the ball. It is about pressing with intensity. It is about sacrificing for the teammate. It is a system, a way of living football that requires total commitment, involvement that goes beyond the 90 minutes. And with all due respect, Asensio's trajectory in recent times does not lead me to think that his adaptation would be quick or simple. He has not managed to impose himself in Paris, where perhaps the tactical demand is different from ours, but the media pressure and the need for results are just as fierce. The third piece of news concerns a historic bombshell at Barcelona. The sense of being a Barcelona supporter, deeply rooted in generations of fans, has been shaken by unexpected news. Barcelona is not ruling out the sale of Marc Casado. The young midfielder, one of the most notable promises from the youth academy, could be living his last days as a Blaugrana. The surprise comes not only from the club's willingness to listen to offers but also from the player himself being open to leaving Camp Nou. And to further intensify this emotional earthquake, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City has made a strong entrance, ready to put up to €80 million on the table to take him to the Premier League. The news hit the Barcelona fanbase like a sledgehammer. No one saw it coming. Casado was one of those players who seemed to have commitment tattooed on his skin, a homegrown footballer, knowledgeable of the style, a silent worker with a mix of temperament, character, and quality that suggested he could be a future captain. However, as so often happens in modern football, sentimental logic has once again clashed with the reality of a voracious market, of sports projects guided by numbers, promises of playing time, titles, and media showcases. Hansi Flick, the new commander of the Blaugrana ship, is fully aware of Marc Casado's sporting and symbolic value. Since his arrival, the German coach has strongly bet on a combination of experience and youth, and the young midfielder was one of the key pieces of this puzzle. Flick sees him as an ideal profile for the midfield, capable of supporting the team, distributing with discernment, and being the bridge between defense and the creative players. Therefore, his potential departure represents an unexpected setback in sports planning. However, beyond the pain this may cause, it is time to take a clear stance. If Marc Casado wants to leave, the doors of the club must be opened, because Barcelona is much more than a stepping stone for personal projects. Barcelona is a symbol, a way of understanding football, a passion that cannot be sustained by talent alone. It requires commitment, love for the crest, and unwavering dedication. And if this commitment is broken for any reason, it is better to part ways in a timely manner, with respect, but without hesitation. Of course, the interest from a coach like Guardiola is not minor. That the most influential coach of the last century wants Casado on his team speaks volumes about the level reached by the young midfielder. It also confirms that the club's training work continues to produce elite footballers coveted by the main clubs on the continent. But we cannot ignore that behind these 80 million euros, there is also a tough decision. Sell for an irresistible amount or fight to retain someone who has already shown signs of wanting a change of scenery. This is where the club must demonstrate its leadership. It is not just about making profits or yielding to a player's desire. It is about understanding where the project stands. Is Casado committed? Is he willing to fight for a place, to continue training, to grow in the context of Camp Nou? Or has he been seduced by the promise of a different, more successful, and faster footballing life far from home? Because if that is the case, then there is nothing more to say. We must thank him, wish him the best, and use that money wisely. Because even if it hurts, Barcelona needs convinced footballers, not just talented ones, but believers in the project, hungry for glory, and with a Barcelona identity. It is useless to retain someone who looks longingly across the English Channel. And this is not the first time the club has faced such decisions. Time has shown that the crest survives any loss. The history of Barcelona is dotted with painful departures that seemed like a point of no return. And yet, the club has always known how to rebuild itself because what does not change, what never disappears, is the philosophy, the style, and the passion that unite us as Barcelona fans. In this sense, the 80 million euros that Manchester City is offering should not only be seen as economic compensation, but also as an opportunity to continue building a strong, ambitious, and coherent project. This amount would allow strengthening the sensitive areas of the team, promoting new incorporations, and even improving the club's internal structures. But none of this will be useful if there is not a clear idea of the direction to take. And this idea starts by accepting that not everyone born here wants to stay, that not everyone trained in our home feels the same way, that some choose other paths, and that is fine. Love for the crest cannot be demanded, bought, or imposed. It is simply there or it is not. If Casado no longer has it, then we must look forward without resentment. On the other hand, this should also be a wake-up call for the directors, as the work of a club is not only to train players but also to create an environment that motivates them to stay. Are young players offered a coherent progression? Are they given the necessary confidence to feel part of the project? Or do they see outside what they do not find here? Many Barcelona fans feel hurt, even betrayed. But it is not about dramatizing. It is time to look at things with maturity, to understand that football has changed and that individual decisions are also part of the game. The important thing is that the club does not lose its direction, that it continues to bet on those who want to fight, that it does not lament those who decide to leave, but strengthens those who stay. Because as long as there is a child with a blue and garnet jersey dreaming of making their debut at Camp Nou, the spirit of the club will remain alive. Because as long as there are players who prefer to stay, grow, and triumph here, the Youth Academy will continue to be our pride. Because as long as the crest continues to beat in the hearts of Barcelona fans, nothing and no one will be able to stop our history. Now, the question is for the supporters. What do you think about this possible departure of Marc Casado? Should the club accept the 80 million and look to the future? Or should we make a final effort to convince him that his place is here, at home? Does the pain of the offer, the player's intention, or the feeling that even those trained at La Masia no longer feel the same as before hurt you more? If Casado wants to leave, let him do so with respect. And if he decides to stay, let him do so with his soul. Because in this club, we do not just play with our feet, we play with our hearts. And you, Barcelona fan, what do you think? Should we open the doors or fight for his continuity? Should we prioritize the project or the sentiment? Does his possible departure or the fact that he is ready to leave everything behind hurt you more? Leave us your opinion in the comments.